Welcome back to day 19 of the 30-day coding challenge. Today, we're going to be building this single-page portfolio. If you're new here, hi, my name is Zoe. I'm a software engineer and former university professor who loves teaching folks how to code. If you're interested in starting a career in front-end web development, check out that first link in the description below for more information about our bootcamp. But without further ado, let's hop into day 19 of the challenge. All right, so yeah, as you can see in our design here, it's a single page portfolio, but it does utilize a lot of sort of reusable components and things like that. So today we're really going to focus on using as many reusable components as possible and also using our theme and working as best we can with our theme. So let's hop into our code. If you do want to follow along, this is the single page design portfolio option from Front End Mentor. You can definitely, I'll leave a link to that in the description below, and you can also use the starter that I have also linked in the description below. So it's a Material UI, Next.js, TypeScript starter using the app router, but you don't necessarily have to use that if you don't want to. All right, so I've gone ahead and I downloaded all the starter files and I dropped the images into the public folder here, so we have access to all of that and the app is up and running. So I'm just gonna go ahead and clear out the reset styles that come with the starter kit, and let's go ahead and start by setting up this background color. So it looks like we have several sort of repeating colors that we're going to be working with here in the project. And there are a couple of ways we can access and work with these colors. For the first step here, I'm going to just set the body and HTML color to be this background color, because that's going to be the easiest way to just set it in this globals.css file. But for the rest of them, I think I actually want to create some variables and work with Material UI's built-in theme and styling components. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. All right, so I'll open up the page file because we're going to be working mostly from there, and I'll open up the styles and the theme file. So as you can see, we can create a theme here using different palettes. I'm actually going to change the mode to light here just so we have that flexibility. And then we can actually customize all of the different headings and sort of typography elements that we have here. And that's great because it'll allow us to be consistent with our design language and also use, accessible names and accessible headings and things like that, which is super important when you're trying to build a portfolio piece that you really want to show off to employers or potential employers. So what I want to do actually here is I want to kind of just go back and forth between the design. I think they actually have, there's a sort of language here, basically a design system that we can work with. And let's just go out and create a couple of these variables, a couple of these headings, and then we'll get started. So they don't do the H1, H2, H3. They do heading large, medium, and small, which I am not as big of a fan of, but it does look like that H1 large is only used in one place. So we're going to sort of co-opt that as our H1. So I'm going to say this is going to be our H1, 56 pixels is going to be the size of that. So let's go ahead and say 56 pixels, 3.5 RAM, and I think we can assume 800. Maybe we can change it to maybe 600, and we can play around with that based on what works for us. So we have our H1. Let's work on an H2 now. So going back here, our medium is going to be our H2, and that's going to be 40 pixels. So let's say 40 pixels, 2.5 RAM. Looks good. And then we'll have our H3, which is going to be this smaller bolded option here, and it's going to be 32 pixels. So that's just going to be 2 RAM, and we'll have that as our H3. So this way now, when we put in our variants in our typography elements, it'll be really easy for us to access sort of these consistent themes without having to do too much work. The other thing I believe we can do is set the color. Let's take a look if the color is not standard black. Yeah, so it's this black here. So I'm going to set that color in here. And actually, rather than just setting the color straight, let's create a colors file. So we'll say new file. We'll say color, or should we? Yeah, let's say colors.ts. And I'm going to create a colors variable. And we're going to say black, export const colors. Black is going to be this. So then now, instead of if I need to change the color black, like if I want to say, I want to set this to 00000 instead of having to change it in multiple places, what I'm just going to do is change the variable, and then it'll automatically change in all those places where black was set. So that's great. So here, I'm just going to say, it's going to be colors dot black, and that's going to be the color, and it's going to be the same for all of these. So we use that same black as opposed to the default black. And I believe that's true. Yeah, that's the same black. Cool. So we have that. And then we'll have this last body style. I'll use the body one. And we're just going to say body one. And the font size is going to be 1.125 rem, 18 pixels. And the color, let me see what color this is. This is actually a medium brown. So let's go ahead and define that variable in our colors file. We'll say medium brown. And that's going to be that. We'll say colors dot medium brown. Cool. We'll save that. So that's looking good. So we have our typography sort of initialized as far as what we're going to work with H1, 2, 3, and our body one. So we're good to go in that sense. Let's go ahead and create some variables for the rest of these colors here. So let's see. We're working with, actually, I wonder if I can just, yeah, we can grab the whole selection here. So I'm going to grab this. This is called Galactic Blue. We'll say Galactic Blue. I'm just going off the names they're giving me here. Galactic Blue. We have Summer Yellow, so we'll grab that. Save that. We have, what is this? Like a salmon sort of thing. We'll call it pink. When I'm naming them, they don't get these fancy names. Oh, no, see, that's more like, okay, it's a light red. I was going to say that's more like a salmon. So we'll call that light red. The other important thing about these variable names is that you actually remember them. I might end up changing some of them. This is a cyan. This is like a purple-y kind of violet. I'm just going to call it purple. For the sake of our project, it can be purple. We have the black, we have the medium brown, and then we'll have our light cream. Although, yeah, okay, so there's light cream and there's cream, because we have the cream as the background color. So this will be light cream. Save that, and then this color. Oh, is that the same one? Okay, the same color. I'm actually just going to change Galactic Blue to blue and Summer Yellow to yellow, just so it's easier to remember which ones we're working with. Not that I will remember, but, you know, be hopeful. All right, so now that we've defined our color, we've set up our theme a bit, let's go ahead and start to actually build out our components. So there are several reusable pieces that we're going to be using here, as I mentioned. So we want to be thinking about how we can not build the same thing over and over again as we're working on this project. So for instance, one thing that I'm looking at as I'm looking at the design language, obviously the buttons are pretty similar. They all have the same text inside. Really what the difference is whether or not it's that like salmony light red color or if it's black as a background color. So really that's kind of the only difference. Possibly the text color might be different. So definitely one component we're gonna make is a button, like a customized button. The other thing that I'm noticing is that there is this like style of box that we're working with, and I think it might be useful to just make some sort of customized box that has, you know, a certain border radius, and then we can pass in additional additional properties there, just to make our lives a little bit easier. So I think those are probably two components that I'm gonna have as reusable components, and as we go on we might notice some other things. It's a pretty straightforward design, so maybe not, but just things to think about as you're starting to build. So to start, let's start with the top, work our way down. We're going to start with our nav, and so our logo and our first free consultation button. So we're going to build out that button. So hopping over to the code here, I'm going to create a folder, components. And then I'm going to create a new file, and it's going to be nav.tsx. And again, we're trying to make this as clean and the code as clear as possible, because we want to make sure that we're not just building a lot of stuff and building cool stuff, but as we get farther and further into this challenge, we want the quality of our code to improve. So we want to make sure that we're building stuff that can be easily used for clients, that, again, employers would be proud to see, and things of that nature. So we want to kind of improve on our code as we go down these 30 days. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and import the nav here from the components. And I'm going to actually change this box into a container, because if you notice, everything seems to be, or for the most part, most things seem to be within a sort of section here. I might change my mind about this later due to this sort of larger spreading piece, but if we can if we can sort of override the stylings of the container, that might work. But yeah, we're going to start with setting this to be a container instead of a box. So we're going to say container. And then the max width we'll start with is large. We'll go from there. So we have that. Cool. Awesome. So then hopping into our nav file now, what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and change this into a box as well. Again, we're doing specifically named imports to avoid the issues with server-side rendering versus client-side rendering. And what I need for my nav now is to showcase this logo, have some padding, so 34 pixels on the top, and then have this button here. So we'll say for our SX props, we'll say margin, we'll say 2rem and 0, so top and bottom. And then I'll import image from Next.image. And our source is going to be, let's go into our images and see. Okay, we're going to copy the relative path here, and that is going to be our source. And actually, to be honest, we could have our logo as a reusable component if we wanted to do that. And yeah, let's do that actually. Let's make our logo a reusable component, because that'll make our lives a little bit easier, because we do have it in a second location. So I'm going to take the logo, and I'm just going to set this to be what we need for the logo. All right, so we have the logo. The alternate text is going to be logo, and then the height is going to be probably 16, and the width is going to, the width is also going to be probably 16, and we can adjust that if we need. And so then here, I'm just going to import the logo. So that way, when I do it again in the footer, we don't need to go ahead and put in all those styles. It's the same size, same color, same everything. So that will make our lives a little bit easier. Next thing we want to do is now build our custom button. So I'm going to say new file. I'm going to say CTA button, call to action button, CTA. Maybe I'll just call it custom button. Let's use that. And for this button, let's take a closer look. It looks like, yeah, it's going to be using black and the white color for the center. And then let me take a look at this one. It's going to be using that light red and the same white for the center. Okay, so the only thing we really need to change is that that outside, background color really. So that's good. That's the only thing we really need to worry about. Corner radius is going to be 28 pixels. So let's start there. Let's define the button, import it from Material UI, import button, good. And then we'll say background color. And then this is actually, so we'll start to think about the sort of two versions we have of this. So we'll say interface props. We could call this custom button props, like whatever you want to call it. And then we'll say color. And this color is going to be a string. And then within here, we'll say color, and we'll say custom button props. And that'll be what we're working with. So then for the background color now, we'll say color equals, and we could say black. Oops. And if that's true, then we return colors dot black. Else we return colors dot, I believe it's the light red we're working with. And so that's how we can determine what the color of the button is, the background color. So just really quick, really simple. Next thing we want to do is set the word. So it's free consultation. And then we also want to set the border radius. So we can say border radius, 28 pixels. Set that. I think we'll probably end up needing some padding as well. Let me drop this in our nav and see how that's looking. We'll say custom button. Okay. Yeah, so we'll need some padding there, and also to override the text transform. So text transform, none, and then padding, we'll say probably top and bottom 1 rem, left and right 2 rem. We can always update that. Save that. Okay, maybe 0.5 rem and 1.5 rem. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Cool. And then we want to set the color. So we know the color is going to be consistent. So color is going to be colors dot white. Oh, sorry, light green. We'll save that. And I think also it's going to need some font weight. Let's set that to 600. So it's just a little bit more prominent. And yeah, that looks pretty decent. This first button is going to have the color, and let's make color optional so that way it defaults. If we don't set the color, so we'll say color equals black. And so that way, yeah, we'll have that button as we want it. Looking at the logo, it does seem a little bit small, so let me change that to 64. Actually, I could just check. Yeah, 64. All right, so that's the right size. And then we can close logo, we can close custom button. We can then set this to be a flex box. So this is our nav. We're going to say display flex. We're going to say align items center so that they line up perfectly. And then we'll say justify content. We're going to say space between. And that way they spread across the section. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. We have our button, we have our logo, and now we can move on to the next piece. So I'll close out our nav for now. So we have the nav, next major component. So that's going to be our hero header sort of section here. So let me go ahead and make another component. We'll say new file, hero.tsx. Cool. And we'll go ahead and import this on the page so we can see what we're working on. Hero. Awesome. So in our hero, let's start off with a box as we do. Boxes are just regular divs that allow us to access the SX prop for Material UI. We're going to have our header. So we're going to import also a typography element. And then now we've gone ahead and already defined all of our styles. So really, we don't really have that much to do as far as styling goes. So we can say typography, and we'll say, we'll copy this text, design solutions made easy. We'll just set the variant to be an H1. And then if we create another typography element, we'll copy all of this text and we'll put that in there. And then we can set the variant to be body1, because that's the body text we're going to be working with. And so that already is pretty much set for us. We don't really need to do too much more. I think the only thing we want to do is probably text align it to the center. And to be honest, no, that's not consistent across. Otherwise, I would have made that piece on the theme. So I'm going to see if I can do a text align on the box and see if that will, that will apply to the two elements. If not, we can go ahead and style that separately. Oh, and it worked. Perfect. So yeah, we don't need to worry about that. The other thing that I can actually make, I'll just do some margin on the bottom of the H1, and then I'll do some margin on the bottom of the body element. But that's actually something we could define and set if that's very consistent across all the pieces. And it does look like we sort of have some sort of consistent level of styling on the bottom of all these. So maybe we can say margin bottom of 1.5 rem. And maybe that's a consistency across all of the headers. And it might not take. That's all right. Could possibly do line height as well. Say line height. Let's do 20. Something absurd. Would help if I put on an element we could see. Right, that will make it huge. So we can say line height 1.5, maybe 2. Yeah, and that'll give us a little bit of a built-in margin automatically, so we could do that. Cool. So we have our initial margin on the bottom there. I think the other thing we want to do, I think possibly what we want to do actually is wrap these two in a box, because it looks like there's a similar amount of padding on the top and the bottom there. So I think I'm going to wrap everything else in another box. And this is going to be the div that contains that. And I'm going to say margin, top, bottom is going to be, what did I say? About 66 pixels. Yeah, about 4 top and bottom. So that'll just give us some space. The next bit we want to do is these boxes here. This like, I don't know which we want to call this. Sometimes they have some sort of description here, which is really useful, but I'm not seeing anything here. Design solutions made easy. Let's just call it solutions. And that'll be that section there. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and create another. I'm going to create two components. I'm going to create a new file and call it solutions. Oops. Cool. And within this solutions file, it's going to be a box. We're going to create this whole solution situation. So solutions is going to go here. So that's where it's going to show up. So it's going to be, yeah, underneath there. So that's great. So we're kind of done with the hero, like that code for the minute. What we want to do for solutions now, I think I want to create that. Remember I was talking about making that box that has, you know, sort of similar stylings. I think I want to go ahead and create just a like custom box and use that. So I'm going to say new file, custom box.tsx. And then we're going to say box. And what this box is going to do, it's going to take in SX props potentially. It's going to be a type of SX props. And SX props. It's going to start off with a corner border radius of 8. So we'll say border radius 0.5 rem. And that's going to be the consistent element across it. And then we'll pass in the SX props, whether SX props that we have that we want to, you know, we want to update the background color, etc., etc., etc. So that's what that's going to be. And then it's also going to take in children, react node, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Say children, and those are going to go in the middle. So basically, it's just going to be a wrapper for whatever other elements we want to put inside there. So going back to the solutions tab now, I want to go ahead and use this box. So we'll say custom box. And the box is going to have something in it, right? It's not just going to be an empty box. So within the box, we're going to have two elements. We're going to have a typography element, and we're going to have an image element. And actually, what we could do even further is take the custom box, sorry, and make a solutions box. So we could say solution box. And we take our custom box. This is getting complicated. We can take our custom box, and then we can just basically style this one time and then repeat the styles essentially. So we'll say interface props. We'll say it's going to take in text, which is going to be a string. And then it's going to take in an image, which is image source, which is going to be a string as well. And we'll say the text and the image source are props. And then it might also take in SX props, because these are not all the same, basically the same type of box and on the same size and things like that. So we'll say custom box SX equals SX. And what else? Oh, and it's also going to need a color, and that because they all have different colors. So we'll say background color. Oops, color is color, and then whatever other SX props we have there. yeah, and so then now within it, we're going to have a typography element. And this is going to be import typography / typography. Get rid of it there. And within the typography element, we're going to show our text. And then, actually above that, we're going to have the image. So the image is going to be from next image. The source is going to be image source. The, what else? The alt is going to be decorative image, because that's really all they are. Height. And I wonder if there's any consistency. No, there's no real consistency around these images, their sizes, I mean. So we'll just say height equals 100, width equals 100. And then what we can do now is say style. We can say height. We can reset the height. Height we'll pass in a prop called image height. Height. String, and image width, string. So height will be image height. I'll pass that in there. So image height, width, width will be image width. I'll save that. And close off. There we go. And there we go. So now we can dynamically set the image height and the image width. So we have we're actually going to take this custom box out because we're going to use our solution box. And we have it somewhat set out. We're going to have to do some modifications now, but I want to sort of start to see what it looks like. So I'm going to say custom box, solution box. Solution box. And I'm going to pass in all of our details now. So we'll say graphic design. And really, what we also could do is map through all of these. Like we could create an object and map through all of these pieces here. But I think because we don't actually have it already set up, we'll just go ahead and put it in one by one. So we'll say text equals graphic design. Image source is going to be, now we got to figure out which one is which. Okay, great. Pattern, graphic design. So we'll copy relative path. Image source. Image height is going to be, let's see if we can grab that there. Height is going to be 192. Width is going to be, I think it was 128 pixels. What else are we missing there? We need, color is going to be colors dot, and which one is this? Is that like purpley color? Blue? That might be the blue. Let's see if it's the blue. And yeah, so that's all we need to pass to it. The other thing I'm going to want to modify in a second. So yeah, we have the box right there. Oh, we need to modify the color of the text. That's important too. So let's say sx equals color is going to be colors dot light cream. So that's going to be the color of the text. And that's interesting. I wonder if this bold 24, is that our H3? No. So this is actually a separate text element that they didn't give us access. They didn't tell us that we needed to set up. So, take the design system with a grain of salt. So it looks like 24 pixels, font size 1.5 rem, font weight would be 600. Cool. So that looks pretty decent. What I want to do now is refine the design a little bit. So let's take a look at how much padding there is, because that's going to be consistent across all the boxes. So 1.5 rem of padding, and that's going to be here. So we'll say padding 1.5 rem. And then for the image, let's see, how do we want to do this? We want to pass this in, or no, it looks like the images are always right aligned. So let's see if we can set this to a flex box. So we'll say display flex direction column. And then we'll see if we can say align self flex end. See if that works. Yep, that works. We're gonna say justify content space between. Good. And that seems to be pretty decent so far. The other thing that we'll do is within solutions, we'll sort of set like a max height, max width sort of thing. So it's going to be, if you're looking at it on the page, and again, trying to make it a little bit responsive, maybe max height of, I don't know, 50 view height. Max height, 50 view height. And then the width is already determined by the box. So I think that's probably going to work. So we'll have that's our first box. You could do this using grid. You could do this using flexbox. It kind of depends on what works better for you, what you find it easier to work with. I'm going to actually do this using flexbox just so we can try it a little bit different way than what you might see in other solutions for this problem. So because I want to use flexbox, we have our first box there, right? We have our first solutions box. I'm actually going to set this to be a display of flex just so we have that flexibility, pun intended. So we have our first flex box, right? It's right there. The next thing that I want to do, and honestly, I think we might need to make it maybe even a little bit. We might just have to set the height to 50 view width. The next thing I want to do is have the create this box essentially. So it's whatever's going to live in these in this section here. So I'm thinking of them as like columns essentially, and then within the columns we can divide them into rows. So for these two or these three, we're gonna just make a box. So we're gonna wrap these three in a box, and what we can actually do is create a variable. We say const section height, and then we'll set it to 50 view h, so that way we don't need to keep changing it in multiple locations. So I think what I'm going to do is say height of this is also section height, so that we are consistent across what we're doing here. So section height, we have this box. We're going to create 3 solutions boxes. We're going to create another box within here and put 2, and then we're going to put 1 outside, and that's going to be our 3 boxes. So we have them, they're kind of just stacked on top of one another. That's fine right now. We'll create this, make this inner box a flex box. So we'll make those 2 sort of line up next to one another. And then that bottom one will take up the remaining space. So you're starting to see kind of how it makes sense a little bit. We have to go ahead and change some of these heights and widths and things because that's what's kind of screwing with our design right now. So we'll say 64 by 64 for this one. 64 by 64, and it's going to be UI UX, and it's going to be pattern dash UI UX. The second one is going to be apps. So text is apps, pattern is apps, size is going to be same 64 by 64. Oh, I'm sorry, not 64. 64 pixels, which is 3 rem, 4 rem, right? So 4 rem, 4 rem, 4 rem, and then illustrations on the bottom. the good thing about using their assets is that they have a very similar naming convention, and then it's going to be 128 by 64. So height is going to be 4 rem, width is going to be 8 rem. And then the colors, it's that yellow, I think. I think that's the pink. And I think the last one's the light red. Cool. So that should be kind of already set. Yeah, that's looking pretty decent. So yeah, that's pretty solid. I think what we might want to do is, how should we do this? Display flex. Height is section height. We'll say display flex. Flex direction is column. This is for that larger box now that holds the 3 elements. Flex direction is column. And then we're going to say justify content space between. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to say justify content space between. Space between. Great. And we're going to set probably a width on this box. Or we could actually probably do flex. Because, yeah, this is a flex box. And then this is a flex box. So actually we want to set the flex to be maybe 1.5. Okay. We'll say flex. Flex of 1 is normal. Okay. We'll do flex of 0.5. 0.1. Okay, there we go. Wasn't changing there for a second. Oh no. All right, so flex of maybe 0.35, and it's just the amount of the space it's going to take up. All right. The other thing I could do probably is add a little bit more space between the image and the yeah, it does look like there's a bit of a similar level of image space between the image and the text. So what we could do is we could say, how would we do this? It wouldn't necessarily be SX. We could say, in the solution box, we could say, justify content space between. We could say, oops. We could probably say height. Yeah, maybe set that to 20 view height. Yeah, and then that'll get it a little bit larger. And give us a little bit more space there. The other thing I'm noticing now is I want to do justify content space between for the larger solutions box so they spread apart. Again, we won't have them that far apart when we actually finish up, but just something to think about. Okay, so maybe height is probably going to be like 15 view height. And again, we can keep playing around with this. Maybe we just make this whole thing a little bit shorter, generally speaking. Like maybe the section height is actually only 40 view height or 45 view height. 2 view height. Yeah, and we'll keep playing around. So, okay. The next thing, so we have this box, that box, this box. One more box. We want to make one more box. We'll say box, and this is going to hold these two, photography and motion graphics. And again, same sort of deal. We're going to say solutions box. Actually, we'll just copy and paste one of these because that'll be a lot easier. Paste 2 of those, and we'll say for the outer box, the container essentially, display flex, flex direction of column. And it's going to be photography and motion graphics. So photography, oops. And motion graphics. So we'll change this to photography. We'll change this to motion graphics. We'll take a look at the image, 160 by 64. What's this one? 128 by 64. So that one can stay. This is going to be 160 by 64. And then it's going to be cyan, and I think what I call purple. And those are going to be those two. All right, cool. And it kind of already puts it in the style we want it. Let's go ahead and say justify content, space between. We'll save that. Good. And then what else do we need to do there? Yeah, I think at this point we just need to sort of squish them together. It's really only 3 of them. Yeah. And then color should be cyan. Did I not set the right color for cyan? Colors. Oh yeah, I set cyan, and pink is the same color, which would not, that would not be helpful. So we'll say this is going to be the color for cyan. Oh, actually cyan, pink, and light red are all the same color right now. All right, light red. Let's grab that color and set that. All right, cool. So now we have different colors. Great. Okay, cool. Yeah, now we're seeing the right colors. Awesome. Yeah, what I want to do now is just kind of get these in the right shape. So I think, like, for instance, this graphic design one needs to be a lot wider. So I think what I'm going to do for that first solution box, I'm going to say flex is like 1. See if that makes it wider. Oh, that makes it huge. All right, let's do flex is 0.75. See if that shrinks it at all. 0.5. Okay, I think it's going to probably be about 0.45, maybe a little bit less. Then this box, flex probably closer to 0.3. And then also making the inner boxes large. I'll say flex. Let's flex 1. Okay, there we go. Let's see what happens. Oops, when I set it for the next one. Okay, they just take up the equal amount of space. I think maybe then what I want to do. Oh, you know what? It's actually, I want to do it here. We'll say flex of. Is it? Let's see how. Yeah, it's about. They're all about the same actually. They're all about 0.3. So if we set that correctly. Oh, and I'm here setting SX within SX, which doesn't work. Flex of 0.3. They should all take up an equal amount of space. No. Okay, that's 0.3. Maybe 0.4. If I take this out, would it get any bigger? No. Okay. Flex of 1. Oh, interesting. It goes straight down. Am I doing it on the... Oh, that was the wrong box. Let's do flex of 1 here. There we go. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was doing it on the wrong one. Okay, let's try 0.45. Flex 0.3. 0.2. Oh, not this box. That's not the right box. Flex 0.5. 0.6, and then flex. We'll try this one also 0.6. Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm just gonna keep messing with these for a couple of minutes just so we can get this design looking nice, because this is kind of like a crucial part of the design. But you can see why somebody would just do it this with grid. It'd be a lot easier. But it's always good to try new things. All right, let's do 4.5 again. Cool. that looks pretty decent. And then photography and motion graphics. I think what I want to do for those two, I want to just set this box height is going to be section height, what it is, and then the height of one of these to be 15 view height. Again, something else that could be a variable. Whoops, wrong one. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think definitely some tweaking that could still go on here, like flex of this outside box. I think it'd probably be 0.45. Maybe 0.4, because it has to add up to 1 at the end of the day. So like, who has to get smaller? Which box has to get smaller? I think this first box probably has to get smaller. Maybe 0.35. And then, yeah, the last one doesn't need to be 0.45. This could be 0.3. And then the one in the middle could also be 0.3. So then, yeah, it really should be probably 0.33, 0.33, 0.33 for all of them, just to make them equal. But yeah, so I'm happy with those two sections. I think we can move on to the next piece now. So we'll close out solutions, close out solution box, close out custom box. We're done with all of those for the moment. And again, something else you could do is to start wrapping these in folders. So we could say hero and drop hero, solutions, and solution box into that one, because those are all part of the hero component there. They're part of the hero section there, right? So just to make things a little bit more straightforward, a little bit clearer. /solutions. Yeah, make things work just a little bit better there. Cool. And then we have the page. We still got hero. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, just to clean things up a little bit. We could have maybe a shared folder, shared components that we use across each piece. All right. Next piece here. This is the, I guess, about. So I'm going to create another file. I'm going to say about.tsx. And this is going to be this circular situation here, and then a sort of typography button combination here. So pretty straightforward relative to what we do. I think the last component we built is probably the most complicated one we're going to build today. So we'll say box, and we're going to import an image from next image. I'm going to say source is equal to, let's go grab that. So we'll go to public, images, and it's going to be image Amy. We'll copy relative path. Awesome. Save that. Alt is going to be Amy profile. And then height, height 100, width 100. And then in my SX props, I'm going to actually just go ahead and set the height to 100%. Oops, 100%. And whoopsies, set the width, whoops, width to 100%. Oh, I'm sorry, not SX, style. Cool, so we got our first image. Let's also drop this here. We'll say about, drop that in there. Good. So, okay, we have Amy. She's a little bit too big right now. Maybe we'll make Amy a little bit smaller. 445 by 445. Let's see. Let's go with like 20 view width. 20 view width. So it's the same unit of measurement. That looks a lot better. So we'll go with that. Another thing I noticed, we'll need some margin. So we'll say margin. Let's go with 88 pixels top and bottom. 0. Just so we have a little bit of space there. And then maybe more actually. And then let's put in our typography elements. I'm going to make a box. I'm going to set it to be a flex box, and the column is going to be flex direction is going to be column. And then we're going to just drop in our typography elements. So this is where it gets a little bit plug and play. Like, we've done a lot of the legwork already, so we can just start to put things where they're supposed to go. So we'll say typography. And we'll say this one is, I'm Amy, and I'd love to work on your next project. Awesome. This is, I think, going to be the H2 variant, if I'm not mistaken. Amy, love to work on your next project. Awesome. Oh, and then this also needs to be a flex box. And then in our second typography element, we have this, which will be our body one. Good. And then in this last one, we'll have our button. So we'll say custom button. And we're not going to give it any color because it's already the right color. Awesome. So that looks pretty good. I think what I want to do is, I think I want to set a max width for this now that looking at that. I'm going to say max width of 228 pixels. Just so we don't get it to go quite across the whole page. For the H2s, I think I'm going to actually go ahead and change the line height because that seems like it's way too big. That looks a lot better. And then for this outer box, I'm going to say justify content space between. And I'm going to set this second flex to be 0.5 so it doesn't take up so much space. Or maybe 0. It looks about half. Maybe the image needs to be bigger as well. 0.7. And then also for this, we'll say justify content space between. I think maybe the image could be bigger. Let's say 25. And I think the image is aligned in the center. We'll say align self center. Is it align self? Display flex, justify content, space between. Or you know what? Align self center. Justify content, space between. Or could I do justify self center? No, okay. Let me do some margin. Say margin, margin, top, bottom, 0, left, right, 5 width. Yeah, that looks a little bit better there. All right. Maybe it's not space between, maybe it's space evenly. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So let's go with that. We'll go with space evenly. I think we can get rid of this margin. Yeah, even better, even better. All right. I think we can go back down to 20 because this padding looks strange. And flex 0.5. Maybe 0.6. Cool. Awesome. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Let's move on to the next section. So close out that about, close with the theme, close with the custom button. Next section is called my work. And again, I don't want to spend too much time going through and really creating complex components. But let's just say work. I think it would be good to have some sort of image showcase. Now, creating a slider is a whole complex more complex piece than we need to do right now. I think what we can do is just show a typography element that says my work and then the 3 image. I think that's going to be perfectly fine. So let's create a box. Start with a box as we always do. Start with a box. And we'll import work here. And you see how this page is just being like really neatly kept together? That's the goal by really separating everything out into components like that, just so you don't have really complex components that, you know, become unwieldy. All right, and so then my work is just going to be 2 things. It's going to be a typography element. And I believe the variant is H3, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm probably going to have to go back into my styles and change that, but we'll see. Say my work. And then underneath that, we're going to have box with display of flex. We're going to have 3 images. We're going to say image from next image. And the source is going to be, it's probably, I think, the gallery images that they call them. Image slide. So copy, or let's see, which image is it? Oh, it's like the 2nd image. Again, we're not going to create the whole slider today because that's a bit involved. Slider alt equals decorate, or no, sorry, my work sample. That's what we sample. Work sample, height, width, style equals height is going to be, I don't know, let's see, how big is it relative to, let's do 20 view width again. And width, one for we'll just do 100%. Oops, width, 100%. Oh, and I need to fix this. Okay, first one. And then we'll drop in 2 more. Slide 3 and slide 4, I'm guessing. Cool. That actually is starting to do exactly what we want it to do, which is overlap. I think what we want to do with the box here, we'll say left 0. See if that. Or do I have to set the position absolute? Okay, looks pretty good. I'm gonna say justify content, space between. And width is gonna be 100 view width. I'll say 99 view width. And then maybe we have to set the width on these as well. Maybe 30 view width. Although it's interesting that it doesn't display flex, justify content, space between. Maybe we just need to set margin. Keep the width at 100 and we say, whoops. Say margin I wonder our margin. Yeah, I think I'm good with that. Let's do that. Let's just set a margin on each of them. And again, because we're modifying the design a little bit, we're taking a little bit of artistic liberty with the content. But I think that looks pretty decent. 99 view width. I wonder if I could say scroll. No, don't save. Let's do 98.5. All right, cool. And we have the my work section there. Let's just do display. Oops, display flex, flex, flex direction column. items to the center. Oh no, we've lost my work. All right, let's not do that. Yeah, let's take that out. We'll just say text line, align of center. Cool, looks pretty good. So we have my work, and then underneath my work, oh, and sorry, we also do have this border radius that I had neglected, which is probably the same 0.5 rem. And we're gonna drop that here. Oops. Drop that here. And we actually could have created a custom image component for these three. So something to think about. We're kind of running low on time here, but I would definitely recommend considering that if you're gonna do it. Do this. Also using some higher res images. I don't know why these are so low quality. And then the last two bits here. So we're going to have the CTA and the footer. So let's drop those in. And actually, the footer isn't really a footer. The footer is actually just the nav again. So we can probably just drop in the nav for a second time. So I think just one more piece here. So we'll say a new component, CTA.tsx. Save that. And then we'll import it here. Save that. Box. Save that. And then it's going to be this. It's going to be a box about 320 pixels tall. So we'll say height. What is it? That's 20 rem. Background color. Color is going to be colors dot black. And then we're gonna have two typography elements and the button. Also border radius. We also could have set the border radius as like a variable, so that's something to also consider if you do this again. So we'll create another box here. And we'll make two typography elements. Say typography. The variant for the first is going to be, is it an H2? Yeah, I think it's an H2. And it's going to be book a call with me. And then another typography element. It's going to be one of the bodies. Variant equals body 1. And this is going to be flex direction column. Save that. And then on the other side, we're just going to have the custom button. And it's just going to be the regular custom button because it's the pinkish color. Oh, and because we set it to absolute, now it's underneath it. Shoot. All right, I think I need to take a little bit more artistic liberty with the work. Just cancel position absolute. And set the width to have the width be what it is. And then have these guys. So maybe 15 view width might work a little bit better. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just set these guys to 15 view width. 15 view width. Great, that looks a lot better. Yeah. All right, so yeah, next, going back to our CTA, we're gonna set the colors. It's gonna be colors dot light cream. And this one is gonna be also light cream. We'll say light cream. Awesome. We We have this. This is going to be a display flex. Cool. And then we need some padding. 80 top and bottom, 65 left and right. Okay, so about 4 and about 5. Doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think, oh, and the height's probably too big now. Height. That looks pretty good. And then this first section will say flex. And we'll say space evenly. I think that's the kind of style. Evenly. No, space between. Space between. And then I don't know why that decided to get so big, that custom button. Max width, we'll say max height is, what did I say, 56? 3 rem. Okay, we'll say align items center. I think we'll lower, yeah, we'll lower the height a little bit. And then we'll give it some margin. So we'll say margin is going to be like 40 top and bottom. Oh, yeah, top and bottom, not left and right. Awesome, that looks pretty good. I think the last thing we want to do is drop in the nav again. Maybe add in a little bit more margin. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, we went ahead, we created this whole landing page. We used very specific code in a way that we didn't repeat ourselves as much. There's still, I think there's still refactor work to be done here. I think you can definitely do a lot better job. If you really want to spend maybe another half an hour, you could get that slider working and get it, you know, sort of make it a real gem of the portfolio piece. But if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. And if you want to see the rest of the videos in this series, I'll link the playlist up here so you can check those out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.